Gonna make you do it. Comrade Pavlov.
Well, that's some pretty interesting stuff. Let's move to a state story about the car tags.
Absolutely.
Plate to owner and such. Let me just read a quick part of this Channel 4. New laws on car registration and tags. Changes are right around the corner for Oklahoma drivers thanks to a new law taking effect July 1st. Under Senate Bill 1339, passed and signed into law during the 2018 legislative session, drivers will now keep their tags if they choose to sell a car. Paula Ross with the Oklahoma Tax Commission said it's meant to assist both law enforcement and the public. Isn't that handy both?
I love how
that works well.
It's for everyone.
I love how they tell you that them charging you money illegally is for your benefit.
You know,
What's another word for illegal?
Unlawful.
Okay.
sorry, not sorry, I think is how that is. But she says it helps both law enforcement and the public because it can currently be a hassle to prove a driver no longer owns a vehicle.
It could be
It's hard, isn't it?
It's a hassle to conduct an investigation, so I prefer to be able to just go on Pepperball's blade.
If it's that hard to prove a driver owns a vehicle, all the people who own illegal drugs should be looking into this to figure out how can I prove I don't really own these drugs.
You know, the thing they didn't say there, the big elephant in the room is...
And I didn't read the whole article, but yes.
No, and it's not in the whole article.
Okay, go ahead.
Folks, this is what's called a revenue-raising measure.
What do you mean?
According to our state's constitution, that if a bill results in increased revenue to the state, it must either get an emergency 75% passage in both chambers or be presented to a vote of the people. This could easily have gone to vote of the people in the last general election, but they didn't. They don't trust the people.
Why not?
Well, because
the people may make the wrong decision.
Okay,
right?
here's how it's a revenue-raising measure. When you would sell me a car, D'Ambroso, whatever's left of the registration for that year, the tag, comes with it. Okay, so it's like, oh man, there's 8 months left on
Sweet
that.
deal.
Sweet, yeah. It's kind of like a value-added thing. And even though I'd have to register the car, I wouldn't have to renew the tags until they're due. That's transferable, okay? So the state has no windfall in that. Now they do, because they're saying, D'Ambroso, keep that license plate. Now I'm driving a car with no license plate on it. By God, I've got 5 days, folks, to register that and get a plate on it.
So it sounds like you're getting a 5-day discount. What's wrong with this?
I thought you could get 15 with a paper tag.
So here's the thing, D'Ambroso, if you buy another car in addition to what you already have, that license plate that you kept becomes a coupon that says, until this month here, coming up, when it's due, I get credit for it. It's just a coupon. There's plenty of people, whether it's grandma going into the assisted living center or, family downsizing, or for whatever reason, people are downsizing vehicles. The state now gets to double register the same vehicle for that same...
Yeah, but you're not going to get charged for someone else running the Pike Pass.
Okay,
Your old
that's a different thing. And here's where the law's always been on the books, and this is wrong in that report, is when you sell a car, you can go down to the tag office, fill out a form, yes, there is a little bit of fee, and notifies you got an affidavit to them, I no longer own this vehicle. That says, state, don't give me parking tickets, don't give me Pike Pass.
But you're asking probably a
all that.
little bit too much for them not to send you the tickets, even though you've told them and informed them.
I'm telling you,
kind of expecting a lot.
if that
I'm
car,
going to bring us out of the weeds.
if
here
that
as soon as
was
I can.
if that was the getaway car at a bank robbery or whatever, now you've got record. I wasn't part of that. I sold that car, and here's the evidence. That's what they're getting into. They already have that. The sad thing, folks, this passed overwhelmingly both houses. The people I expected most, I won't name names tonight, but the people I expected.
Thank you.
Time he says he's not going to name a name, I'm bringing it.
Don't name them.
But you can look it up. I'm going to put the links on the Sooner Politics not Sooner Politics, 3D Politics Facebook page on this. So next week, Oh, one more thing.
Because I want to get philosophical with
One
this and then
more
work it into
One more
AI.
thing. There is no penalty stipulated for your failure to keep your registration that you registered your car in your vehicle.
No, they're going off the license plate.
Wow.
They
Yeah.
want you to
And-
not have a license plate so that you will be
But
pulled
even-
over for not
no,
having that license
even
plate.
if you-
That's what they want.
It's another level.
Even if
Yeah.
you've done that, that's one part of this new law. Senate Bill 1339 from last year's spring session says you also have to keep that registration paperwork that has the little seal of the state of Oklahoma on it.
Yeah,
It's
why not?
white
That's
paper.
cool.
And that you got to keep that in your vehicle. That may be fine for your soccer mom,
It's cool.
soccer mom
I
SUV.
keep dumping
But
mags
for,
out of my
but,
box.
but for my little motorcycle there, I don't have a little place to keep that place to keep that.
I gotta
piece of
stop you
paper.
there.
Risk it.
You don't have a motorcycle.
Well, I have a right.
Of way, maybe.
Here I am again.
And I
on
speak
my
on
own.
behalf of those who are suffering under the burden of this oppressive
I am
government.
concerned this is going
Thank
to
you.
take food off the SWAT team's table.
Oh.
Instead of kicking down 2 doors,
I rest
they're
my
only going to
case.
kick down 1 door.
This is a revenue-raising measure. Thank you very much.
Can I take us out of the weeds and way up into the philosophical
We'll see.
class?
Sure.
The concept here, she says, because, which means there's a reason why they're passing this. And it's because it can currently be a hassle to prove a driver no longer owns. So you're going to prove a negative. Well, now, how do you show evidence that you no longer own?
Well, and this comes to the very heart of the problem. I'm glad you brought that up. Because
You're keeping your plate now.
well, no, here's what it is. Remember, you get a bill at the beginning of every cycle of your plate, your tag cycle. They send you a bill and they expect you to pay it. Well, if you don't own the car, now in California, where I come from, as part of the sale of the car, there was a termination of ownership form that you then turned in with your paperwork.
And we have that
And
no
and
problem.
and therefore it stayed with the previous owner so that they could turn it in
But it's
themselves.
too much to ask the bureaucrats, municipalities, to keep up with that.
The-
So
Well,
it doesn't
and-
matter
and
that you turn in that
the,
information.
The entire idea was
that
so
you don't.
or the entire point of this proof thing is people are coming back and saying, I sold the car. They say, well, it hasn't been re-registered, so you owe us the tags. And they say, I'm not paying you tags for a car that I haven't owned for a year.
pay the money.
And
Just pay the money.
And that becomes the hassle.
It's going to a
because-
good cause.
Just to touch on the tip of the proof of his point that it's a scam and a revenue thing, it says, however, the new law requires drivers to keep the registration of a copy of it in their cars. That would be you keep your registration in your car to prove what? That you no longer own a vehicle? No! You're keeping the registration to prove you own the vehicle, which means this concept that we're passing this law to prove that you no longer own a vehicle is totally bogus.
Right.
You cannot hold a piece of paper that proves you don't own something. It's absolutely conceptually.
well, no, that actually does exist.
It's called a receipt.
It is your
Just on
it is your sale of it is your
That's proof of
For-
sale, David.
proof of sale.
Oh my gosh, that's
It's
not
gone from my
that
inventory.
doesn't
It
mean
proves
I
that someone
don't
else
own
has
it. That
one
means I
less.
sold it.
We already have everything in
Yeah.
place to do just that. This is just one more thing, and here's the problem. And we found this out in our story, was the last week, about the cops in Blanchard, who really didn't know how to enforce the laws the way they wanted to the outcome they wanted, and so they just kind of made it up. Well, folks, there is no stipulated punishment for failure to keep your registration in your vehicle.
Not yet.
You got to do it, but it's up to a cop to figure out how to punish you, evidently,
in the meantime.
in the meantime.
Until
Well,
the
and this-
legislature clarifies it.
and which tells me that the lawmakers who wrote this weren't interested in the law enforcement part of it. They were interested in the revenue.
And the gatekeeping. They want people to show up somewhere to get a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and they do want the enforcement action because they want that plate off the car, because that will then force or initiate a stop.
Right.
Where they could threaten to steal your car by impound, because if you might be over 5 days, hey, if you're 6 days and you haven't registered the car, paid the tax and paid the tags, then you could lose the car entirely.
But
because
this is one bill with two laws involved. One was the license plate non-transferable. The other was the mandating you must now keep registration.
And it only costs $1. Sounds reasonable. Let's get to some commentary from the plebs.
Let's do it.
Blake Barber says, why don't they just have the seller mail the signed title with the buyer's address listed to State Department of Finance and Administration? And they can charge the new owner the registration and titling fees, which must be paid before the new owner can get the legal title and insurance on it.
Because that adds another burden on the people to now be the de facto tag agent in charge of handling the registration.
Well, that is.
If we could eliminate tag agencies, I don't know.
Well, here's the thing, and Blake, I'm glad you brought
At least
asked your question,
Yeah.
because it really comes down to, and all of the confusion and all of the angst that we are expressing about this bill goes to the heart of the initial scheme in the first place. Who owns your car? Who decides that you have a right to that car or not? Yeah. And does anybody other than the owner of that car have the right to say you cannot use it?
I know.
And
What kind of right?
Well, that would be a natural right that is codified in our Constitution.
Oh, yeah, I like it.
So before we had cars, we had horse and buggies. I assume that we put license plates on the rear end of horses, right?
Only Mel Brooks.
Okay. so a horse's ass must have a license plate. I guess that, right? That was somewhere in Alfalfa Bill Murray's state constitution.
It is this big. So
that every horse's ass had to have a license plate on it. No! This is ridiculous.
Well, I had a friend in commentary today say on social media, Norm Smallago, he has a lot of law enforcement in his family. I think he does loss prevention for a number of sites. Mm-hmm. And he said this goes against all doctrine on safety, keeping your address in your vehicle. So if you're ever robbed, essentially someone knows where to go to get everything else, right? You got some magazines in your car, right? Mm-hmm. Some firearm magazines. They know where to find the matching guns now.
Yeah. And one word of caution here. We're talking about your registration. Do not, under any circumstances, keep the title to your vehicle in your vehicle. Because if somebody has
it becomes the law.
Folks, it'd just be a matter of 24 hours, and what do you know? Somebody else owns your vehicle, and you can't even claim it's stolen now.
I always leave the
and they have
title
to pay for it.
I always leave the title of my vehicle next to my shoe and the kid in the back seat.
Well, you'd be surprised at the number of people that don't know the difference between a title and a registration.
Well, yeah,
Really
I'm just trying to be smart aleck. One other point. This is standard procedure by socialists in the way that they push bad law. This, I think we agree, is bad law. Regarding the concerns, Ms. Ross says Oklahomans have been required to keep proof of insurance in their car for many years. So again, it has momentum of
stare decisis.
We've been infringing.
So now we have two papers. Okay, we got registration and your insurance. And when are we going to get the officers say, your papers, please?
Wasn't that Hogan's here?
Well, actually,
articles
that is what was the point of the Blanchard stop. That is the point that they try to get to with every stop. Right. They want to demand your papers. Look at all the YouTube videos of all the BLM agents, not Bureau of Land Management, the Border Patrol. At the stops where they're stopping American citizens and demanding to prove that you're an American citizen.
Well, these aren't national socialists. These are state socialists. What do you call that?
Well, these are tyrants because they come from every stripe, whether socialist or not.
Yeah.
The point is, they just want
socialism is tyrant. There's no difference.
Right, but not all tyrants are socialists.
But you're missing the point. Yeah. The point is you just have to say whoever won the World Series the year they ask you, and you go right on through the checkpoint. No problem.
You have a right to be left alone. That's what we learned from Blanchard. You want to be left alone,
Yeah.
In fact, if they arrest you, the first thing they have to tell you is that you have a right to remain silent.
Allegedly.
Okay, so
That's why they hold off telling you.
this
you
is
can
the
be arrested.
problem. Now, I will say,
You're letting the secrets
I
out.
will say, if I want to be able to post bond, I better have some kind of identification. But you don't even have to give that unless they have probable cause to arrest you for something.
They've
Well,
always got some of that.
Neat that probable cause can be generated out of nowhere. So they
Oh,
always
really?
have
Oh
it.
yeah.
But there was a reason I pulled
But
you over.
it is
the end.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
It is
A reason.
It is actionable against that law officer if they are untruthful in claiming.
Good luck
Good
proving
luck,
that.
good luck
I
proving that,
understand
and when they lie to cover their to
I
CYA,
understand
then
that.
then you know it's
Yeah, and you might find out when they impound your car, they found some things in there that you have no idea were in there. They will be.
And since the
Yeah.
Supreme Court has ruled that the fruit of the poisonous tree is actually good, that you literally can be held liable, even though the stop was illegal. They
Oh,
and they
okay.
then
The
find
fruit of the poisonous
it's
tree.
called
Wow.
it's called the fruit of the poisonous tree. That the stop was illegal. The
illegal
poisonous
stop.
tree.
But they found something.
They found something. It would have been thrown out in years past. Now they've said no. We've got to consider their motive and their mentality behind it.
Yeah.
If we
They're
deemed
just-
that they
You
were
have
a
to
good
consider
motive, then
if they're a good person or not, and anyone serving the public is a good person. So it's a nice little circle they make. It's called a reasoning perfection
Yeah.
circle.
Yeah.
And so
Oh,
you start with the
so-
conclusion. That conclusion proves the conclusion. But Mike Miller says if you actively object to an infraction, you are then impeding the investigation.
yes, we saw that in Blanchard.
Well, and Trump, obstructed justice by just saying I'm not guilty.
Yeah,
right?
by saying I don't like this, and I wish they would stop.
I want to commend Don Rubon, my former state senator, and now he's down in Florida working their legislature. He said that this is what we call laws of government convenience. These are things where they make the citizens jump through hoops to make the government's job easier.
But they're already serving you.
Yeah.
How much more do they have to serve you?
I'm sorry.
Don't
they're
make your
not
server's
serving
job any harder than
me.
it
They
has
are
to be.
not
for you.
serving me, folks. I'm sorry. This is a problem. We are now serving them.
They might serve you papers.
Our job.
I don't have your papers.
Our job is to feed the government.
Yeah.
And if we have anything left over, we might get to enjoy
Well, if
it.
you look at how handsome and talented and smart Beto is, don't you want to work for him? Don't
Oh
you want
my
to think
God.
about the world you're making for
Look,
him?
you work your butt off to provide for your family, and before you even get your paycheck, the government took their part out of it.
Well, just
Well,
4 to 5 times more than God does. I mean, sounds reasonable.
Well, and you know what's really interesting is that the first point of our Bill of Rights in the Oklahoma Constitution is that you have a right to the profits of your own industry.
Yeah.
That's kind of funny.
And they are always looking at taking that away. And
Even when they have a budget surplus, they're like, we need the biggest tax rate increase in history. Why? Because we have the biggest
And
surplus in
another
history.
thing on
They
that-
match.
And it's literally stipulated in our state constitution that taking away a man's means of providing for himself is not allowable even under a criminal felony statute.
Wow.
So we have in our civil
they're like the
asset
13th
forfeiture, they don't even charge you the crime and they take your property.
Right, your property
but our
might be guilty.
Constitution says that we are supposed to, even when somebody's guilty, if they used a car or they used a horse or whatever, you still can't take it from them.